So I recently watched the rest of Sarcastic Chorus's video on Dipper and Wendy. And even though he does stick by what he said previously, like, the age and design, the age discrepancy, the description of the characters, and basically the design, basically being the unchecked boxes that I mentioned in the previous audio video, still being a problem. But he did bring up a lot of other things, and he brought them up very well. And he even got us to the point where they did have the talk, Wendy and Dipper, because Dipper thought Wendy had died, and it brought out all the emotions he had, and emotions and feelings he had for her. So what's interesting about, the video, though, is Sarcastic Chorus brings up the fact that, after having the talk, Wendy just doesn't hold it against him. She doesn't, berate him or try to teach him a lesson. She's accepting of it. She's accepting of, these feelings he finally confessed, but makes it clear to him that, not only is she just a bit older than him for something like this to happen, but also the fact that she just likes him for him. And she likes hanging out with him. She likes, being close with him on a friendship level because they have a lot in common. But what's interesting is the door is left open in the eyes of a lot of fans when they switch hats and she tells them in a letter, "I'll see you next summer." And the reason that's still open is because we know that if you want to look at Gravity Falls somewhat from a not just fantasy setting, but also a real life setting, we know that a year's time would be enough for someone like Dipper and Mabel to grow, not just age-wise, but statuesque-wise. And basically grow in height. So who's to say that if they wanted to continue the series, that the next time Wendy sees Dipper, he's about her size, and then there you go. You never know. And that does bring up a question. Would Disney, along with the people behind Gravity Falls, despite the behind-the-scenes issues, if any, would Disney, along with the Gravity Falls people, make a continuation, maybe make, let's say, a sequel series, a sequel special, a movie, would they do it? Would they go that far to not only bring the characters back, put them in new adventures and scenarios, or a new adventure and scenario, but also finally do something that fans have been wanting, and that's Dipper and Wendy. Because, look, a lot of fans could see it a mile away that, it's not going to work and they have to address this. And they do. They do. Excuse me there. And they address it very well. And even to a point that, like I said, Wendy doesn't, down talk Dipper because of his crush for her. She accepts it. She's cool with it. And that's great. That's great. And that kind of leaves the door open for something to happen in the near future. But what that would be, we don't know. And you look at the fact that if they were to do a reunion special or a movie or a sequel series, would they go there? Would they finally decide, what? Fans have been patient enough. Dipper's older and he's taller now. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. And maybe you come up with an excuse for Wendy. You could have Dipper, maybe even Mabel, point out the fact that, hey, you had all these opportunities while we were gone. Did you find somebody? And Wendy could probably be like, yeah, I did this, I did that. I dated this person, I dated that person, da-da-da-da. But then you could have the revelation come out that she always felt like, it just wasn't good enough. Like, even though she tried, she always felt like that something was missing. And now that Dipper's back, it feels like that missing piece is, made a whole again or something. Or it's making her complete. Now, I'm not saying they would do something like this, if they did a sequel series and everything, because they could throw us off and they could give Wendy somebody different, maybe even go the LGBTQ route with her. And then they could give, Dipper Pacifica, as they call it, and that could work too. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but the thing about Disney, when it comes to the original series, like Gravity Falls, like Kim Possible, like The Owl House, like Amphibia, and all of them, they know fans want certain moments. They want certain moments. I mean, look at Owl House, for goodness sakes. Fans wanted them to pretty much clarify the LGBTQ lesbian relationship or romance between the main character and the other character that she has a thing for. And they did. They didn't shy away from it. You know, they went there. They made it happen, if you will. I mean, and not just that. You look at Amphibia. You know, they didn't shy away from doing stuff there. You know, they didn't shy away from the fact that, okay, we're going to kill off the character, but we're going to bring her back and everything. You know, they could have left her dead and everything, made her like a god or a goddess, but they brought her back. But they didn't shy away from the fact that she was going to achieve her destiny. And her destiny was to sacrifice herself for everybody. You know, they didn't shy away from that, is what I'm trying to say. And honestly, it's not going to be the first time Disney would even finally follow through on doing a relationship, if you will. You know, fans have been wanting to see. A good example is Kim Possible. Fans for years had wanted to see her and Ron get together. And even though they would tease it on occasions and all that, they never did anything official. They would always have Kim have a crush on another guy or Ron have a crush on another girl. But everybody always knew that these two were meant together, despite the diversions. And guess what? You know, the So the Drama movie happens, which everybody thought was going to be the finale, but then we get the final season 4, which kind of further developed it. But it's in So the Drama that they finally explored it. They finally explored it and both accepted each other as being the one they were always meant to be with. And they sealed it with a kiss at the end of the film, and they further developed it into the final season, and basically had them seal it with a kiss again in a Grease ending like parody in the 2-parter Graduation. So Disney knows how to basically build to a moment that fans want to see. And to me, if Disney wanted to do a Gravity Falls continuation, or a Gravity Falls movie or sequel, I would not put it past them that we get Dipper and Wendy together. And that Dipper would probably be a little bit more grown, basically about the size of Wendy, and it would work. And the way basically Wendy is presented, you know, she's a badass character. You know, she doesn't really like to, get mushy and everything like that. She doesn't really take dating that seriously. She just wants somebody that's going to like her for her and vice versa. And then she'll be willing to give you a chance. You know, that's what, Sarcastic Chorus pointed out. So, like I mentioned earlier, if they were to do something like that, I could see Dipper coming back. He's grown up now a little bit more. He's basically the same size as Wendy. You know, she's still a bit older than him, but not, not so to the point that it wouldn't be plausible or anything like that. And I could see it being revealed between maybe Wendy and Mabel, because Mabel's going to be grown too a little bit. I could see it being revealed between them that basically she has tried to date people, tried to, have relationships, but always felt like something was missing. But ever since Dipper came back, it felt like that part that's been missing, has been filled again. It's like, that missing part has, has come home. So I could see something like that from Wendy's perspective of basically admitting that, maybe she's been saving herself for Dipper. Well, maybe saving herself for Dipper when it comes to a relationship. And again, it wouldn't be the first time Disney would travel down this path, because they know you want to see it, but they want to make sure it's done in a way that's more acceptable, more believable, when it comes to their shows. And if Gravity Falls still has the popularity that it has, I mean, it's still books out there. I mean, one of the books we sell at my job is Journal 3 or something. So if Gravity Falls is still very popular, why not just bring it back? Even if for a one-off, reunion or, reunion special or movie or whatever, kind of give it that closure, but also give it, the story fans want to see, not just with every other character, but with, people like not Mabel, but people like Wendy and Dipper. Why not do that? To me, it would work. Again, I look at the other examples. Kim Possible, they waited to what they thought was going to be the finale with So the Drama Movie to do her and Ron, and then continue it in season 4. Because fans wanted to see a season 4, and I think Disney knew about it. You kind of look at it and kind of see that a little bit with Phineas and Ferb, when Ferb, years later, is old enough to date the antagonistic doctor's daughter, who's pretty much a good girl, but she loyal to her dad, that she helps him out even when he goofs up. And then, of course, you have Phineas getting together with, what's her name, I can't think of it right now, who's always had a crush on him, and finally he's acknowledging what he's felt about her. So, Disney doesn't shy away from this kind of stuff. They don't. They will make it happen, but in time, and if fans want to see it. And obviously fans want to see these things. And deep down, I think there's a lot of fans that would have loved to see something like an epilogue in the future where Dipper ended up with Wendy. Like Dipper's writing a journal, basically closing it up, and then all of a sudden you hear Wendy's voice, or a very familiar voice, and you look up and see it's Wendy holding maybe a kid. And, Dipper's like, she's like, and you could have Wendy being like, hey, we're going to be late. Come on. And Dipper could be like, I'm coming, honey. And they'll be like, holy shit, they did it. They actually put them together. Because that is something fans would have liked to see. Give Dipper his happy ending, if you will. They would say, even though you had them have the talk, give Dipper his happy ending. And honestly, if they would have done that, I think it would have worked. I don't think fans would still kind of be debating of whether or not it could have happened or would it inevitably happen or whatever the case may be. If they would have done something like that with, an epilogue taking place years in the future, I could see it. I can honestly see it in everything. So to me, I think if Gravity Falls was to come back as a sequel series, as a one-off reunion movie or special, and it takes place years later, I do believe Disney and the Gravity Falls people would actually let this happen. Because they know as well as I do, even though it wasn't presented in the best way possible, because as I mentioned in the other audio video, you had Wendy being 15, but she freaking looked like she could be older than that. And Dipper's like 12, 13, not even that younger than her. And it's like, he's basically the size of he's basically the size of a 6-year-old. I mean, come on, honestly. Honestly, that was not the best descriptive design decision that they made. Let's be honest. But if they would have rectified that, like I said, with an epilogue that they could have put at the end of the finale to kind of show us who everybody was at the time, years later, like they've done with a lot of shows, I don't think many fans would be upset by it because, again, you would give Dipper his happy ending, you'd finally put him with Wendy, and it would work. Heck, you could do the same with Mabel. I mean, how many times has Mabel had a crush in the series, and one Pacific crush maybe, herself, and you finally end up giving her with that guy or whatever? I mean, the possibility would have been endless no matter what the decision for Mabel was. But again, what I'm getting at is I would not put it past Disney to want to probably revisit Gravity Falls in the future and actually make this happen, even if the story takes place years later. I honestly wouldn't put it past them to do that because, again, you have all these examples that I've just mentioned. I mean, look at Owl House. I mean, we haven't even gotten, what is it? We're in the 3rd season, but the 3rd season's done in a very unique kind of way with just movies and specials. But in the 2nd season, what was it, the 2nd season or so? They actually had the main character and that other girl, that elf girl, kiss. And it's like, you didn't have to do that, but they did it because they knew the way the story was going, fans were going to expect that to happen, and it did. And they also wanted to break new ground, period. That's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. But, again, I look at this. I look at this scenario with Dipper and Wendy, and again, I understand why it was presented the way it was, storyline-wise. I get that, because, when you're a kid or you're in your preteens or early teens and you see somebody that's not that much older than you, but, oh my God, she's beautiful, you want to be with her. I mean, we all go through that. That's a fact. We all go through that. We all go through that. But, inevitably it's not going to happen. I mean, eventually, possibly it will, but that's up to the imagination of the fans, and that's up to the writers behind the story. Period. I mean, another good example, non-Disney wise, is Fairly Odd Parents. The Fairly Odd Parents, was a good show. And one of the things they always teased about the show was this nerdy girl had a thing for Timmy, and Timmy didn't want nothing to do with her. Like, he would consider her a good friend as long as she wasn't all lovey-dovey on him, but nothing more. Nothing more whatsoever. And yet, when you get to the live-action movies, which are supposed to, I guess, take place years later and serve as the finales, you get, I think her name is Trixie? Yeah, I think it is Trixie. Man, that's a very used name on a lot of shows, isn't it? But anyway, you get Trixie coming back and finding Timmy, and all of a sudden, Timmy sees her, and she's not the nerdy girl she used to be. She's not the braces-wearing, glasses-wearing nerdy girl she used to be. She's beautiful. And now Timmy's falling for her, and finally understanding that maybe he just, he was too young to, basically realizing he was too young to even understand girls and all that. But now he is, and now he's going like, man, I didn't know this girl that used to be a bother to me is now this, babe, and holy smokes. And she still holds feelings for him, which is kind of cool. So basically, that's an example of, hey, you want to continue the series, you want to give it a proper conclusion, send off and all that, even in live action, just place the story to be years later, not that far, not that far apart years later from the show, and there you go. There you go, perfect scenario. Perfect answer, perfect conclusion, if you will. And, I look at something similar with Gravity Falls, like I said, because I could see them going that route if they wanted to. But what do you guys think? Do you think if Gravity Falls, if Disney and the people behind Gravity Falls, despite any behind-the-scenes issues, do you think they would come together to do either a sequel series, a one-off special, a movie that takes place a few years later, and it would be in that scenario that we would get Dipper and Wendy together? What do you think? Do you think it could happen? Do you think that might be something they would include in, this in a sequel series or one-off special, a movie? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments and in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Unfortunately, Super Chats are not open for at least another month or so. Still working on that. But let me know what your thoughts are in the live chat. Also, support me at Venmo at Brian-Romer-2, Cash App at BW-Roses98. Also, support me by checking out my BW Roses Discussions podcast. I am now at currently 400 episodes, 400 podcast episodes, and more growing. Maybe some of these audio videos will be podcast episodes themselves in the near future. But also support me there at BW Roses Discussions. At all your favorite outlets except for Pandora. Also, check me out at VENMO at BW Roses for content you can't get here on YouTube. At deviantart.com/BVW1979. At my Teespring store for content you can't get anywhere else. And in time for the holiday merchandise, I should say, that you can't get anywhere else, but only there at my Teespring store and in time for the holidays. Also, check me out at patreon.com/BW Roses with a $1 or $3 tier, $5 tier, currently in the works. We'll see if that comes to pass or not. And that might be a Q&A one. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are. I know there's a bunch of Gravity Falls fans out there. Love to hear what your thoughts are. And until then, I'm out.